the junior Pembroke group. It certainly isn't a requirement, you know, and we'll articulate that in the invitation. You're opting into this. You can come to as many meetings as you like, all of the meetings or none of the meetings. And so the students do self-select quite a bit. So we don't have 100% participation in the group from all of our African-American students, but most of them attend pretty regularly. And the meetings are during lunch. Our lunch is, the way our schedule is set up, we have lunch for about a half an hour, and then we have an extension to our lunch every day, which is kind of an extra half an hour, which is unscheduled time. Boys, you know, it could be an assembly that is scheduled in the middle school. The boys may spend time in their homeroom groups studying. They can go outside. And so when we have our Pembroke meetings, we will use that lunchtime and the extension time, or we'll use just the extension time. So we could have, you know, anywhere from 30 minutes to a little over an hour to meet with them pretty much every other week. Thanks.
I was wondering how accepting the other boys are of the African American boys. Is there a good mingling between the diversity in the school, or do they keep to themselves? And you know, whether or not that piece is growing too.
From what I've seen, being at both our high school and now the middle school, there's much more mingling in the middle school. I think there's less suspicion about the group, what it is, what they're doing in the meetings, than there is at the high school. You know, we would have meetings at the high school, you know, that the boys would be walking down the hall and they would hear comments about junior Pembroke and secret meetings or Pembroke. I don't hear that as much in the middle school.
Yeah, and this year we brought some junior Pembroke. We have middle school assemblies in the mornings, and this year the middle school Pembroke boys addressed the whole middle school to tell them what the meetings were like, what went on at the meetings, what they did at the meetings, all of those kind of things. So I think, you know, making it more transparent, making them know that we can talk about it, that they can talk about it, that it's comfortable, but also making it clear that it's a safe space to have dialogue and discussions for this group of boys who really need it was an important piece of it.
Because I've just noticed that in some, in a lot of the schools that the African American students have a tendency to stay with African American students, and the Caucasian students stay with that. And and what we're hoping, I hope, is that everybody sort of becomes friendly with everybody, and
Right.
that is accepting. And so that's what I was wondering.
You know, a lot of the dialogues we have, if we have a meeting and we don't have a topic, the boys come with a topic. And we talk about a lot of these things. You know, middle school boys are very open, they're very raw, they tell you what they think, and they don't really care. And so they will, say, you know what, well my friends are the white kids, or my friends are this, or I don't have this problem. So I agree with you. I think it's probably easier in the middle school, and they're more willing to mingle in the middle school. I know I'm also a lower school learning specialist, and in the lower school, it's pretty much non-existent. I mean, that is never really an issue, but as you move up, I think it becomes
harder.
And I don't know if it's so much that that it's a deliberate thing, but I know, like, if I went to a co-ed school, I'd probably be more apt to hang out with women. If I wanted to sit down at lunch and sit down with my friends that were girls. So we've had those discussions with the older boys as well. It's just, the nature of being with people that are like you,
Right.
who understand you, that you can have conversations with. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk about today the parent piece. So about 3 years ago, I started a group called Creating Connections. We can go to the next. And this is the mission of our group. I'll give you just a second to read it, and then I'm going to talk about it. But again, this is specifically a parent USPA group. USPA meaning it's a PTA group within the context of our school, university school. So, as the coordinator for equity and inclusion, before I started this group, I was the one who did everything around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if there was an event that was gonna happen, if there was an idea that was going to go through the classroom, if there was something in curriculum, I was the one who came up with it and who implemented it. And after a while, I started thinking it'd be really great for the parents to become involved because our USPA is very, very active. And if we could give them a voice and let them also have a hands in the diversity piece, we would probably cast a wider net. So 3 years ago, I started a group, it could be the next one, we can leave that one there. I started the group called Creating Connections. And what it is it's a USPA group and the parents self-select and sign up. So every spring, our USPA sends out information about a group that you might perhaps want to join. We have things called like Moms and Muffins, or do you want to help with a sport, or do you want to help in the lower school library? And Creating Connections is one of the opportunities. So the parents just sign up. And when I decided to start this group, I had one parent in particular that I was quite friendly with, and I said to her, would you be interested in being the chair of this committee? I will help you, I'll be there because it's a brand new committee, but we can sort of work together. And she said, absolutely, I'll come. So this is actually her 3rd year in the position, and so she comes to all of the meetings with me. The way it works is we have about 5 meetings a year as an entire group, and then when we have events or we have assemblies or we have something happening at the school, we have subgroups for that. So the first year, the makeup was all African American. We only had 8 parents that signed up, and of those 8, all 8 were African American. The second year, also all African American except for 1 parent. And then we had about 13 parents. And this year we have 17 parents, and we have African American parents, we have Caucasian parents, we have Indian parents, we have Caribbean parents, we have a great variety, which is really cool because the word's gotten out now that this is a great opportunity to become involved in the school and spread the diversity piece. So the way this works is every year I meet with the middle school and the lower school scheduling people so that we can plan assemblies. And what I like to do is have about 5 to 6 diversity or equity and inclusion assemblies. So as a committee, we look at the calendar, and you may or may not be familiar with this, but like each month has about 5 or 6 things to celebrate. So what we do is we rotate. We might look, and this month might be Learning Disabilities Awareness Month, National Hispanic Month, and Native American Heritage Month. So we'll pick one of those months to celebrate, and we'll either do it with an assembly, or we'll do it with a speaker, or we'll do it with an event. So the first 2 slides I'm going to show you, one of the first celebrations we had this year was for Jewish music. And so we had, his name is Bert Stratton. He has a klezmer band group called the Yiddishi Cup, and they perform in Hebrew and Yiddish and English. And this is a K-8 assembly, so it's school-wide for our Shaker campus, and all of the boys attend. So you should be able to click and see a little bit of the performance. And this little boy was invited to come up and play the drums with him. So while this was going on stage, the next slide, and you can push play, this is what it looked like in the audience. So the assembly was music, but it was also the history of Jewish music and why this music was so important that it was only really saved after the Holocaust and almost disappeared. So there's a little history lesson always involved. So this was 1 month of celebration. The next slide is from our Black History Month. This is Helen Turner Thompson and her 2 children. She is from the Antioch Baptist Church, and she did a celebration of music from slavery through now, through Black history. And this whole year, all of our themes have to do with music. So this was from Black History Month. There's no song for this one. This was from last year. This is when we celebrated National Hispanic Month. And there's a terrific local group called Culture Kids. I know HB uses them sometimes. And they do performances. So this was a bilingual performance by Sean of a Hispanic folk tale. You only hear a little bit of the Spanish.
Go outside and wash the cloth. Wash, 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 wash. Can you do that with me? Wash, 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 wash. Go ahead. And then then ring the clock. Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. And then shake the clock. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Wiggle. And then put the clock back on the rack to dry.
Go to the next slide. Terrific. So in addition to these assemblies, again, which are school-wide, we have areas of the school that are designated for our committee, as you can see, creating connections. We have several bulletin boards, and then the librarians in both areas, lower and middle school, also let us use these great display cases. So this was for Martin Luther King Jr. month this year. And either a parent will volunteer to do this, or I will, depending upon what the celebration it is that we're having. One of our assemblies at the beginning of the year was about music tolerance. So one of the parents decided to focus on a kind of music that's now in Algeria that had been banned. So she did, this was after it was taken down, but I pulled out some of the displays that she had. The next one has it as well. And this is another one. We can go to the next slide too. And this is one as well. And again, when we have these assemblies, we want the boys to make the connections so that these displays are everywhere, and sometimes we have people talk at lunch as well, so that the assembly is sort of like a culmination piece. Go to the next slide. This is one of the display cases, and this was again for the klezmer. So sometimes we have DVDs that we can play or books to bring in also. Another assembly we had this year was a celebration of Caribbean culture. And so a steel drum band came in, and so one of the moms who happened to be from Trinidad had displays about the history of the steel pan, so the boys again would understand a frame of reference and a context for the music that they were going to see. Okay. One of the biggest celebrations that we have is called our Global Table Heritage Potluck Dinner. And the way it works is it's sponsored by Creating Connections Committee, and everyone K to 12 gets invited, and we ask the families to bring a dish that's representative of their family. So depending upon where their family's from, or maybe something that they just celebrate, they make a dish, and then we all gather in the chapel one evening and we have a lovely dinner, and the food is tremendous. You'll get to see some pictures of the food. And we also have them put a list of the ingredients and where it's from and what the dish is, because we found after the first year, a lot of times these are new foods, but other families would like to make them, so they then can make the connection with the families and talk and get the recipes. And these are just the families who are eating. We'll do a couple, one more. Okay, so during the meal, all of you guys work with kids, so you know it takes the boys about 5 or 10 minutes to eat, and we're there for about an hour and a half. So we have to have an activity. So, one more slide, please. So I started this activity last year. I pair the younger boys with the older boys, and they get a sheet that looks like this. And you probably can read it from where you are, but each sheet has something different in it that has to do with equity and inclusion or diversity. This one says, change the baby's diaper, has eaten potato Luckies, can ride a skateboard, celebrated Chinese New Year. And what they do is they have their partner, and they have to go around the room, and they have to have a signature in the box from all different people. So they actually have to go up and talk to the people and engage in conversation and get this signed as well as get it completed. And this happens to be a real highlight. There's some more boys eating. And more families. And more. This was this year. Every year it's gotten a little bit bigger. One more. So we have, as I said, we have our assemblies. We have the visual with the slides and the bulletin boards up everywhere. And we also, obviously, like I'm sure all of you guys do, is we have celebration of holidays all over. And so when we have displays, very often we'll be able to talk about them at lunch or during an assembly. And boys usually self-select. They'll say, you know what, this is what we did for Ramadan. Can I come up and talk about it? Or this is what my family does to celebrate Diwali. Can I come up and can I share it with you? And we give them that opportunity to do at lunch as well. So I think between the three of us, we've pretty much covered all the bases, from bringing the families in and showing them our school and having the opportunity to sort of walk around and talk to current families and past alums, and then what the support that we do for the boys in the middle school, and then this parent piece as well. So do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
You talked about moms and up stairs and donuts, which we also have at HB, and lately there has been some concern because so many children come from families that don't have moms, don't have dads, you know, single, and the renaming of those or the redefining of them. Where are you with that?
I love that you brought that up. So this year, it's so appropriate. So this is the head of our Shaker campus, Bruce. And so this year, so for those of you who aren't familiar or are from a different place, in the fall, we have something called Dads and Donuts. And in the spring or winter, we have something called Moms and Muffins. This is a long-standing tradition where you would bring your dad and you guys would come early in the morning and you come into the chapel, which is our lunchroom, and you get coffee and juice and you have donuts with your dad and then you go off to school. Or you go with your mom and you have muffins. Well, I, like you, had been thinking about this for several years, and this year in particular, I had a little boy, he was new to the school, and it was Dads and Donuts, and Dads and Donuts was over, so it was like starting the day, it was like about 8 or 8:30, and I saw him walking around, and I stopped him, and I said, hey, did you have a donut? And he said, I was waiting outside. His parents are divorced, he lives with his mom. He said, my dad never came. And I was just, so I went in to talk to Bruce, and I said, you know, I said,
and I'd already had another boy, because I'm outside shaking hands, and I had another boy come up and enter the school in tears already. So
what's crazy about that is this all happened this year. Like I've been thinking about it from a diversity perspective, equity and inclusion as well. But when this happened, I think, oh my God. And then I started thinking, well, what if the parent had passed away, or we have a boy with 2 moms? And so we started to have this conversation. And I can't tell you, he could probably tell you where the conversation is now, but I, like you, was thinking the same thing.
I mean, immediately we thought, what about dudes and donuts?
General male.
We're not there yet with the muffins. I think we'll do the muffins again this year, and then we'll probably look at a name change, much like we changed Grandparents' Day three years ago, for the same reasons.
Yeah.
So,
And it's those, traditions that so often you don't think about, they're just there and they've been embedded in the school for so long, and all of a sudden you kind of open your eyes one day and you think, whoa, like how did I miss that? So yeah.
Old guard too, that's like, oh, that's
Oh,
our
yeah.
tradition, so.
Right.
But that's all right. You'll get over it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Is there any outlined diversity curriculum at US in the primary school? Because it's something that I feel like I would love to have here at HB, where there was a series of lessons that was done every year. So every year you knew that the girls were having discussions around topics, because, also for teachers, for a white teacher who, I've always been kind of in the middle, I've never been marginalized, it's really hard for me, even though I'm aware of that and I try really hard to foster productive conversations and know that I'm teaching them in a way that I should be,
Right.
because of where my perspective and my lens is from my life, and that's just the truth of it.
Right.
So being trained in and having an opportunity to work with someone who would help you understand the content of your lessons, what might come up, and give you actual lessons that would foster those conversations, rather than how they sometimes arise naturally in the classroom. But I feel like just to get teachers more comfortable, because just looking at the teachers across the board kind of at HB, but a lot of the teachers in the primary school, we're all female teachers, vast majority of white teachers, and I feel like I'm aware of that, and for my students of color, then how that must feel. And so it's hard, I wish that we had more of a way to have conversations and know that what we were talking about and teaching was what we should be
Right.
teaching. It's
Yeah.
just, I'm aware of my own perspective and
Right. I'm gonna answer your question in a minute. I'm gonna answer a question. If anyone wants to go to lunch, I don't want you to feel like you have to sit here. But what's really interesting is just about a week ago, I had a conversation about being very deliberate about the diversity work and the conversations we have in the lower school. And so that's my plan for next year. And actually, a colleague of yours, LaVonna Carpenter, and I spoke the other
She and I
night.
have a lot of conversations.
Well,
I'm right
she-
across the hall from her.
She's
so.
the one who pointed me in the direction of the curriculum that I would use, which is teaching tolerance. I don't know, if you're not from Cleveland, you might not be familiar with it, but or maybe you are, there's an awesome curriculum. What's the perspectives? It's a K-12 curriculum. And what they do is they break it down into Common Core standards, and they have all of the resources. Joe and I were just looking at it a little while ago, I wanted to show him the curriculum I was going to use, but starting next year, I'm gonna go into the classrooms and we're gonna have deliberate, regular conversations, because when they're little, they don't know what they say, and they don't know that it hurts someone else, and it is the teaching perspective, click on this one. And it is the anti-bias framework. And it goes to the bottom right here. Okay, so this is really cool. So click on K-2 and click on identity. Okay? And then it gives you the standards for Common Core, okay? Standards and outcome. Okay, now go back up so we can show them the resources, which is go to Central Text Anthology, right up, yep. And then click on here. No, one below, yep. And this is the awesome thing. So K-2, it divides it up into the 8 strands of diversity, and then it lists information, literature, any visuals, and it goes through. So she's the one who pointed me in this direction.
Yeah,
We
she
talked
showed
for a
us
really long
this.
time, and she said it's awesome because it's systematic, and you can pick and you can choose. So for whatever the purpose is, for whatever the grade level, you know that developmentally the conversations you're having appropriate, and it's a uniform curriculum. And teaching tolerance is awesome.
Just mention about how we're so centered on theme.
Yeah.
And our themes are, in many cases, surround other cultures.
Yeah, and the thing about themes is that, if you're in a theme, you might talk about diversity for 6 weeks, but the other times you're not.
Right.
And that's why we felt that it needed to be deliberate, and we needed to make it happen as a regular.
So you'll plan on going in?
Yes, and just one more thing about what you were saying is that, as Terry said, I started junior Pembroke as a white woman with a white colleague. And I said to the boys the very first day, I said, well, I'm a woman and I'm white and you guys are not. I said, obviously, and we all kind of laughed. I said, but the reality is, I said, I really care about you and I care about this. And when we need to have hard conversations, and that's how the speaker piece came in, I will bring in other people to have these conversations with you. So no matter what your lens is, if they know where your heart is and you're very honest about it, you'll be able to have the conversations. Yeah. But Levon is an awesome.
Lauren is speaking from someone that has been trained a lot in this work,
Right.
because she does it. She's been to the University Leadership Conference and
Right.
other conferences, and so many other professional development opportunities. Our presentation covered the admissions piece, the boys, and the parents. We didn't talk about the faculty and the teachers, and I think that is an opportunity area for us as well, because that is the other piece of it. You're bringing in students into the building. The teachers have to be able to support them, have to feel comfortable,
Right.
serving.
Well, they
them
have
as
these
well.
awesome conversations at HB with a lot of the upper school girls, and Camille organizes them, but a lot of times they're when we have kids, because they're during the upper school X period, that's when they are off, but we don't have an opportunity to go at the front. So I kind of feel like I'm itching for more opportunity to learn and to be a better educator for my girls, so.
Thank you. Oh,
One more?
thanks.
I had a question that was similar, and I'm wondering, I know for us, and I'm from California, that oftentimes for students, they're also looking for a mirror in the faculty. And so I'm wondering, for the families that you're trying to recruit, is that a challenge that comes up? Are they explicit about asking that question?
Yes.
Very explicit,
Yeah.
very explicit.
And is there something happening on the back end for you all to recognize and try to work towards?
It's a theme of conversation that has been going on for several years. It is not an easy fix at all. and
You can't multiply, Terry?
Right, no, unfortunately we can't clone Terry, at least not legally, so, but it is, I mean, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, but you have to start with talking about it, raising the issue, and keeping at it. And I would say persistence and constant conversations and energy is necessary in all of this. You know, it's not a 1 year and we're fixed with, you know, a problem. I mean, you guys know, any big problem, you know, it takes, or big issue, or, you know, it takes multiple years usually to address it. But yeah, it's a topic that comes up with a lot of parents, and I tell them that. I say, we've been talking about it, we haven't sorted that out yet. It's an area we're looking at, we're not happy with it, but we know it. And I think oftentimes in the recruitment side of it, the admissions side of it, it's being able to talk directly about an issue and not hiding behind anything and just saying, you know what, yeah, this is something that, you know, we're trying to work on. That speaks to who we are as an institution. You know, we're trying to be transparent with you. We don't have all the answers. We're not perfect. And that says something. It doesn't say that we've got all the answers. It doesn't say that we're there yet. But I think it's just important to be upfront with people about it.
And you know what's so interesting too is, as Terry said, you know, the People of Color Conference, every time I go, that's the same conversation that we have. How hard it is to recruit and retain faculty of color, and the support system we as a school need to have for them in place. Because it's great to have it, but if I'm the only woman teaching it and all my colleagues are men, I'm not gonna stay too long because I don't have anybody to hang out with. I mean, so it's such a bigger piece that we need to create this community for faculty of color once they decide to come to our school.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.